I would like to introduce Fergus Mackay, who is moderating a panel, an overview of EU and African NOGS. Fergus is the Chief Lobbyist Officer for Flex Optics in Germany and traveled from Boston to join us on stage. While this is Fergus's first time presenting at NANOG, he's a veteran attendee, supporter of the community, and currently serves on the NANOG program committee. It's a pleasure to have him with us today. Welcome, Fergus. Can you please step up and introduce your panelists?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. As Jeff said, my name's Fergus Mackay. This panel came out of something somebody put in a survey. They said, it would be really nice to see this. And we thought, that's a great idea. We have a panel. So please take advantage of the surveys to get to see the content you'd like to see. Anyway, let's move on to the panel. First up is Vince from NANOG. You all probably know him from being on the board. Next is Melchior from NLNOG in the Netherlands. From Slovenia and SINOG, we have Jan Jorts. And our furthest away contributor, Portia Rabanda from SAFNOG. Portia is based in Joburg. From the UK, we have Dinesh Babuta. And from Germany, we have Patrick Bussmann from DNOG. And last but definitely not least, Sergei Masaidov from Prague and Ukraine and ENOG. So welcome the panel. Okay. So the format is each of the panelists is going to give a brief talk about how their NOG operates, and then we'll go into some questions, and then we'll go into Q&A from the floor and from remote. So first up, Vince.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm sure everyone had a nice lunch. I mean, you're all here, so I would hope you know what NANOG is all about, but just briefly, North America Network Operators Group, we're really all about community. As far as you've seen our talks, they're all vetted by the program committee, vendor neutral. That's how we like to keep things. And then as far as everything else, if you see from like a funding model, a lot of it is sponsorships, donations, and obviously what we get back from registration. So again, based for mainly North America, and that's about it in a nutshell.
Yep. Okay.
So NLNOG, the Dutch Network Operator Group, or as I tend to call it, the smaller sister of NANOG. So we also organize 3 events a year. So we always have the New Year's drinks. We have a summer event, which is taking place this year on July 8th, and you're more than welcome to join. It's a barbecue. We don't have a formal program, but we give the opportunity for attendees to chat with each other and network and regroup after having not seen many in 2 years. And we have our traditional NLNOG Day, which is probably comparable to one of the conference days at NANOG. What we do a bit different is we don't charge our attendees. Basically, it's free to join. We have a pay what you want model. So if you want to contribute, then that is absolutely welcome. And we don't have members, so we primarily rely on many very loyal sponsors. And yeah, as I said, feel free to join. The program is in English, and if you want to submit something, September 30th is NLNOG Day, so please feel free to send any suggestions for presentations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Me. Okay. Can you pull up the SINOG slides, please? Okay. I have slides just because I already had them, not. Okay, SINOG Slovenian Network Operators Group.
15 minutes.
Where is Slovenia? It's that little red dot in the middle of Europe. We are 2 million people nation, So probably majority of your cities are bigger than our country. But still, CNOG meetings, we usually have one per year. 120, 140 attendees. That's pretty good for 2 million people nation. We have some intermediate activities like workshops between CNOGs, so we have been pretty active before COVID. I will just skip all this. We have website. We have 260 people on the mailing list. Membership in CNOG community is free of charge. Everything is free of charge, but people needs to sign up for the NOG to agree with the charter and how they behave at the meetings and on the mailing list. We have quite a dynamic mailing list. Lots of people is talking about many different topics. Also very mixed membership. Operators, academics, students, enterprise, IT people, everybody is there. And we have a good bonding with, good involvement with the government. They recognized CNOG as an important voice from the community in technical decisions. Most of the time, this is a non-commercial meeting. We don't like to have commercial presentations, sales pitches, and things like this. We have for sponsors like minutes where they can present stuff, but that's clearly marked as a sponsor's presentations. Otherwise, we are more or less sort of like, I had this problem and I fixed it this way and learned this and that. Kind of topics and presentations. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Portia.
Hi. So I'm from SAFNOG. SAFNOG is the Southern Africa Network Operators Group. It is specific to the SADC region. And while there were already other forums and discussion and mailing lists, in 2014, we discovered that it was important that we form a discussion group and a platform to discuss matters that are specific to the sub-region to address the growth and the development of the infrastructure in the sub-region. SAFNOG, we hold annual meetings once every year, and we're looking forward to hosting our next one this August in Cape Town. So hopefully we'll have some of you there. Please feel free to ask me any other questions if you do. Thank you.
Okay. Dinesh. Thank you, Portia.
Hi, I'm Dinesh, and I'm an exec director at the not-for-profit UKIF Limited, the company that runs UKNOF, the UK Network Operators Forum. In addition to that, I also fulfill the operations and events director role. I do wear other hats. I'm the outreach and events person at DNS OARC, and I'm a co-founder at PTNOG, the Portuguese Network Operators Group. But I'm here to talk about UKNOF, and everything you need to know about my talk today is on that single slide. So please take a note of the links on there and the profile names. UKNOF runs at least 3 meetings a year, and its reason for being is basically to share network engineering and network operations knowledge and to assist participants in building relationships for a better internet industry. We have a small board of directors in the company who support the activities of UKNOF. They're supported by 3 committees: the advisory committee, who provide some oversight, the fairly new communications committee, who've taken over a lot of the stuff I used to do, such as the blogs and the social media strategy. And last but not least, the program committee, who solicit for and bring in the content that basically is the reason for the meetings. I'd also like to say that they're all volunteers. But things have evolved over time, especially since before COVID, or BC as I like to call it. The way we think about funding, that's changed. Funding models have to continually evolve, and we're constantly thinking about how to make it so that it's a bit more inclusive as well. The way we communicate, there are new generations coming along, and we need to think about different ways of communicating The way that we think about diversity, for example, and providing a safe space. So on the main website, you got uknof.uk/respect. That will take you to our code of conduct. And it's really simple, really, because it's basically be nice to each other, just respect each other. That's all it is, really. That's what it comes down to. We want to encourage collaboration and have a few ways for people to do this, people in the industry. And even if you don't attend UKNOF, you're more than welcome to come and collaborate and exchange ideas and share knowledge with others. We do have a mailing list, but what we find is that there's much more activity happening on, for example, our chat server, Mattermost-based chat server. A lot of discussion goes on there. And we're also on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And we also have videos of all the talks from previous meetings that we've run on our YouTube channel. So the slide shows you how to get to them. So please take a photograph of that single slide so that you have this for your reference. And that's all for now, really. And I'm happy to answer all your questions as we go through the panel's questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. Patrick.
Thank you. May I have my slides, please? Thank you. Hello, nice to be here. Nice for you having us. My name is Patrick Bussmann. I'm the chair of the board of DNOG, the German Network Operator Group. In my day job, I run product management for the platform of Akamai. So you can find all of the social information for Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn here on the slides. Please feel free to check it out. I'll see if I go next. So quick background, you all know what a NOG is. We're a neutral association. We facilitate information exchange, knowledge sharing, and discussions. DNOG has been around since 2009. That was the first one. We're a non-profit association since 2017. And whatever more information you would like to find, you can find on dnog.de. It's in English, so everyone can read it. So I wanted to go a tiny bit behind. We're not just doing meetings. I'll talk about meetings in a second, but want to go back. So besides the meetings, DNOG is actually very heavily involved in research and university. We facilitate experts coming to universities. We facilitate the exchange between researchers and interesting parts and companies where those can match, exchange data and all of that. We have a running diversity outreach program where we're trying to go out and clearly articulate that DNOG exists, that this is an open community for everyone to come in, and then we try to solve any problems that come up, either they're financially or mentoring or anything else throughout the process. And on top of that, we also have just a normal public outreach where we're trying to spread the message of NOGS in Germany, but we also have a mission to spread the message for NOGS internationally, globally, one of the reasons why I'm here. On top of that, we have a community project fund which supports hackathons where everyone can apply to. And if they want to solve and get together issues that the internet and the networking community has, we have an open fund that people can apply to get money out of that. Quickly talking about meetings, we obviously have a yearly conference that is completely hybrid and remote, but a couple of years ago, we started thinking about, okay, how do we get new generations? How do we get new people? How do we get other people out of the landscape into the community? And the way that we established, and it's been pretty successful so far, has been that we clearly said we need to go out and spread the message. So we have outreach. And then we wanted to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be engaged in the community and to understand and have a first step into DNOG. That's why we created DNOG meetups, which are spread around the whole country. So that you don't have to pay for tickets, you don't have to pay for travel, you don't have to pay for hotels. You can just go have a nice evening, see 1, 2, 3 talks, enjoy people and understand what it is. You can even do that hybrid. And our hope and our success story out of that has been people then clearly, or a portion of that clearly comes to the main conferences, attends our workshop days, gets more involved, understands people, see people from the international landscape, and then they even partially go to the international conferences. So that's roughly what we're doing. We obviously have a yearly conference in person again this year. It's from 13th to 15th November in Hamburg. Very welcome all to join and come. The call for papers is already open on the DNOG page if you want to submit stuff. Otherwise, this is also completely hybrid, so you can attend remotely if you want to. All from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Next up is Sergey, who's going to give us an update on the recent experiences for NOG.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for slides. I would like to tell the story about the NOG. So first of all, I used to be a program committee chair in the years 2015 to 2018, and a PC member since 2010 until 2018. So now I'm not anymore a program committee member, I'm just an observer. So let's move first to the history. The Eurasian Network Operators Group was formed in 2010 as a result of several RIPE NCC regional meetings, mostly held in Moscow. So the idea was to combine the classic Network Operators Group with regional meetings, there are some content from the RIPE meetings. And then with the help of RIPE NCC, we chose the name NOG. So in the year 2010, it was only the mailing list with discussions and RIPE NCC regional meeting. In 2011, with the help of RIPE NCC, there was a first NOG meeting where we have got a lot of the local audience from the domain people, from the TLD operations, and the Internet Exchange members. The program committee responsible for the program of the meeting was formed from the volunteering people, mostly from the RIPE NCC service region. And then we organized 15 more in-person meetings in the region. The meetings were completely different in terms of the number of attendees. Well, the amount was 100 to 500 participants. And later in the year, and after the COVID outbreak, 2 meetings were virtual. We have had a nice Telegram chat with about 600 subscribers this year. So the interesting thing is that we never have collected a member entrance fee from the attendees. Everything was covered by the sponsors and by the RIPE NCC as a meeting organizer. So the goal of this group was to find a common thing between operators in the different regions. And then we wanted to mix the local content with the RIPE NCC meeting, with the RIPE meetings, with some content from IETF meetings, from ICANN meetings, and present it to our local audience in our region. Also, a lot of people were happy with the technical trainings, which we have as a part of our meetings as well. So we used both English and Russian language during the meetings and trainings, and we had a simultaneous translation. So after this, we were trying to encourage people from the local community to participate in different groups across the globe. So, excuse me, at the end of 2021, we had a program committee consist of 18 people, and they were preparing the meeting in June, but then a war started in February, and Russian Federation invaded Ukraine. And what I would like to say is that even before the war started, we had a strange conversation in our chat. So I put some statements to the slide. In the community, we have had operators discussing completely different things, while Ukrainian, for example, operators were discussing the RIPE things, the database issues. Operators from Russia were usually interested in compliance with the local regulations, but then the war changed everything. So very soon after the war started, the program committee chair resigned, and he also requested Ripen CC to disband the whole NOG group and stop spending resources to organize a meeting. He also offered that the local communities in the region will have to organize a NOG within each country. And then Ripen CC decided to postpone the meeting in Moscow in June. The interesting thing is that the community almost didn't object against the proposal of disbanding the group. Only one PC member disagreed. He sent his private opinion to the mailing list. So what we have got from this story? We are still uncertain whether we understand our goals correctly and we understand our audience. We are still uncertain that building a language-based community across the region is the right way. And finally, we are still uncertain whether there is actually a community in the region or our community was kind of artificially created. I believe that if there will be a meeting participation fee introduced, then the number of attendees will be less than half of the registrant coming to the meeting for free. By the way, I'll make a side note. We have organized another language-based community in our region where I live. We call it Czech and Slovak Network Operators Group. And we still think we can grow a local community good enough to run local meetings. And this NOG is also supported by the National Domain Registry, by Internet Exchange Point, and by Academic Network in Czech Republic. Then another things, what we also got as a result, the meeting in Moscow is postponed by the organizer. The Ripen CC is still observing the situation without making any final decision. The Telegram chat, the most efficient way to communicate, is deleted, and the mailing list is empty for years because there is no activity at all. Then the local hosting conferences are ongoing in several countries across the region. There are many interesting topics being discussed, like ISP operations, or hosting, or DevOps, or even the human rights and the internet. But all of them, of those conferences are not even close to a network operators group. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Sergey. Do we have any questions at this point from the floor? Please come to the mic.
Hello, my name is Andrzej Sherbowicz. I'm from McGill University in Montreal, Canada. I'd like to ask you why the community should be language-based.
That was one of the idea when the founders of NOG were encouraging the Ripen CC management to help us to build this community. So we were trying to build a Russian-based community in different countries, mostly ex-USSR.
Thank you very much.
Do we have questions for anyone else? Do you want to grab us?
Josh Oakes from Telstra. Not as much a question, but just to the point of whether NOGs should be language-based, geography-based, or whatever organizing characteristic. Ultimately, I mean, all of us are here supporting each other. We build networks. Networks are means for communication and connection. And so even with the strife that you're dealing with, and my heart truly goes out to you in this crazy time for you, don't give up on that ideal that ultimately we're all trying to connect, whether it's in our countries, with other countries, with each other, whether that is regional or language or cultural. Don't give up on the dream of keeping everybody connected.
Thank you.
And we have a question from the chat.
Natalie Treneman asks a question for all on the panel. What platform do you use for day-to-day communication and why?
So, Melchior, you might know Natalie and be able to answer.
Good question. So we're still kind of old school. We use IRC still and email. So we have a mailing list. But as Dinesh said as well, we are looking into newer ways of communication. I think you said it right. Because obviously we see that let's say the part of our community that's been around a little bit longer, they're on IRC, but it's hard to get new folks obviously on IRC. So so we're looking into what platforms we should be using going forward. So I'm very interested hearing what others are using, as we can learn from that.
I mean, within NANOG, we're fairly heavy Slack users, along with all the other stuff, but
Right.
in terms of chat.
Right.
Jan?
Well, we are using mostly mailing list, and part of the community is organized in IRC. Some people is on Telegram. So yeah, I'm also looking forward to this discussion of modernizing a little bit the communication between the members and what we should use.
Patrick?
Yep, we're halfway there. We've had the same issue. We're mailing list and IRC, and we've had a long-standing discussion about whether that is the future and we can get people on it or not. What we settled on now is we're going the direction of a matrix server, which is going to integrate the telegrams, the IRCs, and then we have to figure out how we can actually get the mailing list into that to some extent. But there is clearly a mission for all of us to go out and figure out how we can integrate the new communication ways for everyone, while not separating the communities into 5 places so that we don't have the benefits. Like, that was the hardest one for us. It's like we wanted to have a consistent place where people talk to each other.
Portia?
Well, we still use a mailing list. It's very old school, but currently that's what we're using, and we're looking forward to having a Telegram group to start. That would be helpful, but I'm also looking forward to hearing from others and take away from them as well.
Sergey? In the past?
In the past, the most effective way for our group was Telegram chat. And I'm observing, let's say, others groups, they are also very active on the Telegram. So the kind of chat could be very effective for NOGS. But of course, if you are running NOG, probably you need to keep the mailing list at least.
Dinesh, you might have some knowledge on this.
Well, we still have the mailing list, but what we found is since we introduced Mattermost as the chat server and with different channels, most of the daily chats have moved on to that because it's instant collaboration for everyone. We do still say to people that if you do want to have a record of things, then use the mailing list. But still, we're finding that basically the mailing list traffic has fallen quite a lot. I'm not saying that Mattermost is the be-all, end-all. We use it internally as well as for the community. But it's a journey. As I mentioned, we're going through a period of evolution, and I think with all NOGs there is a constant period of evolution anyway, and we need to be aware of how the younger generations and new entrants into the community like to work. So it's basically Mattermost is our journey on wherever we end up with newer board members, newer PC members coming in who will advise on what to do next.
I have a question. So with my RIPE program committee vice chair hat on, we are using Mattermost for the program committee communication at the RIPE meetings and the communication with RIPE NCC, like behind the curtains, and that works quite well. But I'm now wondering, you try to beat the NOG members, because I'm wondering how this works with the bigger group. It works quite well with the smaller group. How does it work with the bigger group?
So we have different channels. It's a bit like Slack, really. And we have different channels. So one of the things that we've done with the discussions during the meetings, it's basically called the UK North channel, is that we have a bridge to IRC, because those who are a little bit more old school and don't want to move on to Mattermost can still collaborate and discuss that way. Most of the activity actually happens around the meetings anyway. And then we've got other channels which are for general chat or anything that's a bit more technical. But yeah, it seems to work. We found that the activity has increased quite well.
Cool. So we need to try it.
I mean, wearing other hats at EuroIX and NOG-Fi, we use Mattermost for internal, and again, for events, people join the channel for the 2 or 3 days, and then we don't see them again until next year or next 6 months' time. But
So along those lines, internally, mostly it is Slack that we use for real-time communication as well as for email. But from the community, I've heard mailing lists. I think we probably will never get rid of those just because. But we've transitioned a lot of that into like discourse to kind of modernize that platform. And then I think everyone who's joined either virtually or even in the room, we have an inbuilt chat function that's archived within every live meeting.
Patrick.
I think I've said it, but I think that was a constant of our communication here, is like the key value that I always get as feedback for the old IRC is whenever the internet breaks down somewhere in Germany, you can find all the people that discuss how to actually fix it in the IRC. And that's the core value of it. We need to be careful that we migrate that somehow and keep it alive. Yeah.
Dinesh.
We're finding that newer entrants into the industry don't want to get onto IRC. So how do we encourage participation and those new entrants to become the people who run the internet? And so this is a constant battle that we've had in the past, in that if we keep to IRC and we say to people, actually, you've got to join this and you've got to do this if you want to be part of the group, the part of the clique, then we're not going to get those new entrants coming in, and we're not going to be replaced, and we're going to die off, basically. And what happens to the net then? So I think I do agree it's a constant battle, but we have to be wary of actually what are we doing here? Because if I look back at when I joined the industry, I was part of the group where actually the telcos are old. They do things in particular ways. We're much more dynamic. We're going to introduce our own tools, our new tools. But what we're finding is that as an industry, we're doing the same thing as 25, 30 years ago. And why are we doing that? Why have we got stuck in this circular thing of actually we expect others to do this? Why aren't we looking at the way that younger people are wanting to collaborate?
I think we're agreeing, like always, 90%.
Yes.
I think that's what I said. It's like the direction you're going with Mattermost and the integration of IRC, that's absolutely the direction we need to go. And we need to bring all younger people in, but we need to make sure that we keep the other ones as well.
Yeah. I mean, my cycle club in Boston has so many different channels for ways you can reach. They do way more than any of the NOGs I'm involved with. There are multiple ways, from Facebook upwards or downwards, depending where you think Facebook is. So I hope that answers your question, Natalie. We've got a question in from Matt Petak, but I think that's actually a confusion. Matt's asking about simultaneous translation, and you're not doing simultaneous translation, you're doing simultaneous interpretation, correct? Interpretations for when you're speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Matt, if you do actually mean translation, because I don't think anyone does simultaneous translation at meetings. We do a lot of interpretation at meetings, but not translation. It's two completely different problem spaces. Interpretation is just done with real live interpreters. So, any more questions from the floor before we move on? No, great. So, what did we all do during the COVID times? And how did we keep functioning financially? Yeah.
Stayed at home.
I meant the NOG.
The NOG stayed at home. We actually hibernated, to be honest, because we had a long chat at the board, and we thought that nothing can replace the in-person meetings. Nothing can replace people talking to each other face to face. And there was gazillion of online meetings that just not fitting the purpose of a NOG. NOG is people talking to other people, sharing experience. And also from I can speak with different hats on if you want me. For CNOG, we did this decision. I'm also the chair of the SEE Southeastern Europe RIPE regional meeting. We were postponing the SEE meeting for a long time, and then we decided, okay, let's have an online meeting, like couple of hours on a RIPE NCC, on the RIPE community meetings. We had constant online meetings, like replacement for in-person meetings. But also as a Global NOG Alliance founding member, we saw that the request for help from the NOGs around the world declined a little bit during the COVID times because there were no in-person meetings. But what they asked us is for the Zoom license, so NOGs could have online meetings over our Zoom license. So it's very different. It's from the community to community. It's really, you know, it's a decision.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did organize events during COVID, obviously all virtual. So we changed the concept a little bit, as for example, with the New Year's drinks, instead of gathering together in a bar, or we offered a online beer tasting. So participants got shipped home, I think it was 3 different kinds of beers, and we invited someone who is actually an expert in sorry, yeah, sorry.
You had to be in country.
Right.
Something to do with ships.
Yeah, we only shipped in the Netherlands. There was, and obviously we normally see quite a few attendees from US and other places as well. So we had to adjust to that. And we did organize our yearly NOG Day. However, as indeed Jan said, everyone was already pretty much done with more Zoom meetings. So we shortened the program, but we figured we did want to organize something on one hand, because we obviously made promises to our sponsors, but on the other hand, there's always knowledge to share. So instead of a full day of presentations, we brought it back to a couple of hours of presentations. And that was received quite well. I mean, it's absolutely great that we can meet in person again, but it was good to meet up virtually as well. There's obviously platforms that can help you with that. We used GatherTown, for example. It's a sort of a virtual environment where you can walk around with your character and stand next to each other, and then the video will appear and you can chat with each other. Obviously, it's not a replacement for the hallway conversations here, but it sort of comes close. So we figured we should be creative and still try to bring the community together.
And the sponsors were happy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we even attracted a couple of new sponsors during COVID. So we're very happy with that. And we hadn't had a single complaint from a sponsor about us not organizing in-person events. Everyone understood. Very much support from sponsors. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing to remember, of course, in Europe is that individual countries opened up at completely different times and places. So you didn't have a constant, you know, everything's open, everything is closed. It's a bit is here and a bit isn't there. Patrick.
It was interesting. I gotta admit, I'm not a fan of virtual meetings. I like traveling, I like meeting people. And I think we gotta be honest, you can't replace that with hybrid or virtual meetings. But it also gave us a push in 2 directions. And that was fascinating to see because it came together. It's like, one, before we outsourced the AV of the conference completely, and we changed that. It's like we now have all the equipment, we run it with our own people, by ourselves, with volunteers. So that's amazing, and that actually gave us significant improvement. And the other part was the actual hybrid experience. before it was like, yeah, we had that on YouTube or somewhere, and you can watch it if you really want to, why ever you wanted to do that. And now we had half a year to focus on how can you make the experience as good as possible remote. And I think that's going to stay. So that was awesome. It's good. Besides, I like meeting people again. So let's keep those.
Oh, sure.
So with us, when the news broke with the pandemic, we thought it was going to blow over in a couple of months. Our conference was going to be in September 2020. And we thought, oh, it's going to blow over in a couple of months. Let's wait it out. By March, when the lockdowns were implemented, we decided, no ways, we need to defer the conference to next year. So we deferred to 2021. And we decided we were not going to do a virtual event because there were so many other events that were happening online and people had to interact online all the time. And we thought people will just be tired. Zoom fatigue was already happening. But by September, we realized that the community still needed a platform to talk about what's going on. I mean, everybody was basically now relying on the internet. And we thought, let's get a couple of people together. We put together a panel of ISPs from different countries within the region to come and talk about the impact on their services and their offerings to the community. And last year, we decided we're actually going to do a shorter version of a conference, 2-day conference. And so we held a 2-day conference, 90 minutes each, and it worked out. So moving forward, we obviously want to have in-person meetings, but we will definitely consider still having the online version for those that can't travel, but definitely in person.
And the finances?
And the finances, well, so for the one we had in 2020, we only requested a sponsorship for the online platform, which was Zoom. And last year, we decided to actually invite sponsors to offer sponsorship so that when we do start up again with physical meetings, we can at least have something to put down as a deposit for venues, etc. But also we were able to establish our own platforms for the meeting, and that definitely helped.
So, Borsha, for the next time you need a Zoom license, we can offer you the Global NOG Alliance. We have a Zoom license just to help NOGS with the meetings.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, you said during COVID. I think we are still within COVID times. So,
well, if you believe the British government, I think you'll find it finished. Personally, I don't visit because I don't believe them. But
what I was going to say was that we're still learning, and we're still going through a learning experience of how best to do things. We haven't quite got there yet. You know, I've said earlier on that we're on this journey, and that journey hasn't finished yet. Where we end up, we still really don't know. But when the restrictions were first announced and we had to go into lockdowns in March, we were actually very, very close to our physical meeting, our next meeting, which was in April. And there was a lot of work to be done with the venue because the venue didn't believe that they would have to go into lockdown. And there was a lot of contract negotiation to go on. Thankfully, they agreed. We were apparently the first people to talk to them about COVID and having to postpone. So that was quite an experience going through all of that. At the same time, we were aware that actually we didn't know how long it would take. We thought it may be about 3, maybe 4 months. Of course, we were wrong about that. But we wanted to do something in the interim anyway, because we wanted to keep the momentum going. We wanted to keep the collaboration going. We already had a bunch of presentations that were already accepted for April. And so we did an online only thing in May. That was our first one. I think we were probably the first people to do an online meeting apart from Lynx, who did one just before us. That was interesting because the first time we did it, there was a lot of preparation to do. What technology do we use? And we just went with Zoom and thinking this is the best way to do it. It showed us that there was a lot more involved because, of course, you have your physical meetings. There are people here with you at the venue on site, and you're all working together. But working remotely on an online meeting with everyone being remote, not only the people who are running it, but also the speakers. And what about the technology they're using? So there's a whole lot of things that we had to think about. So we used COVID times with online meetings as a learning experience and making each one better, learning from the last one to implement changes in the next one. And so we got to the point where actually we run them a bit more like TV shows, where we have a run of show, and the run of show runs to 20 pages long, for example, where everyone knows, the speakers, everyone who's involved in the operations, the AV people, they know exactly what's happening at what time, where the links are. The social media team knows what to post, where to post, what the tags are. So, and that's how we've done it. What we became aware of was Zoom fatigue, as you mentioned. Zoom fatigue was a big thing. We saw that there was wider participation from many other countries. But we were aware of this Zoom fatigue, and I felt it myself. And so we were prepared for lower numbers. And those numbers did fall because people stopped registering for every single thing they could, because they had lives to lead as well. And with that in mind, we decided to initially keep the online meetings to just a couple of hours on one day. And over time, we increased the time a little bit until our last two meetings, they were hybrid ones. Again, another learning experience, because we'd never run hybrids before in the way that we wanted to. Of course, we did web streaming, live web streaming of all our meetings, but what we found was that we wanted to keep the collaboration going. We wanted the interactivity that online participants had. And so having the online stuff, having the hybrid meetings allowed us to do that. But of course, again, you've got some speakers who are in the room, some speakers who are remote, you've got some of the crew who are in the room, some of the crew who are remote. So again, a learning experience. I'm not sure where the end goal is yet, but we're getting there. As to finances, I have to say it's been tough, very, very tough, because we decided not to charge for online-only things, online-only meetings, which meant that we ate through our reserves. 2 years worth of reserves we ate through very, very quickly. On top of that, sponsors we found in the UK weren't willing to sponsor things because they were like, oh no, we're much more interested in physical meetings where we can actually meet with people. But that changed once the restrictions continued for many, many more months. We had sponsors coming and saying, look, we would like to sponsor, we'd like to sponsor something. It wasn't at the higher levels that they were doing in the past, but it's something that helped us. But yeah, the finance side was tough. And so, as I said earlier, COVID made us rethink how we do our funding.
Any comments, Sergey, or just the story from earlier?
Well, just my personal impressions from this time.
Yeah.
You know, COVID, organizing a meeting during the COVID time put me in a terrible mood. So you are accepting the requests from the talk proposals from the people you probably never have seen. You will probably never will see those people in the real life, and you are presented to you are broadcasted to the audience that is also everything is virtual. So this makes me completely sick of this, and I tried to run away from organizing.
Anything, comments?
Yeah, actually, so as NANOG, we have three meetings every year. When everything started happening, we were right at the end of NANOG 78 in San Francisco, and then everything started to change. Our next meeting was in June, and as everyone thought, this may be only a couple months, let's try to see if we can really have this still. And it was really kind of nerve-wracking because, like many of you, we've had speakers lined up, what are we going to do? And then all like in Europe where different states had their own different policies, different opening times, we finally made the decision, well, with everyone having to be locked down, we need to do something for the community to basically, like you said, keep the momentum going, give something for the community to feel proud of. So we did decide to go virtual. Learning experience, like everyone had said, what works, what doesn't. We were all cognizant of the Zoom fatigue. So we did shorten the program, and within America, 4 different time zones, we had to account for all those different things. We did learn a lot. Interesting was that our attendance, we had over 2,100 attendees for our first virtual event. And what was interesting is not only from North America, we had folks from Europe, all over the globe, right? And what that showed us was that everywhere, being able to do things such as a hybrid or virtual platform opens that up. And because there was at the time we charged nothing, we had students, we had anyone who was not your traditional attendees here at NANOG try to figure out what this was about. So I think that opened up a lot of opportunities, as well as traditionally we would only get speakers that were from locally or in North America, but we had speakers all over the globe. One thing that we did try was pre-recording all the content, which again, I know that there's differences in that, but part of that was because we weren't ensuring what the internet connection was like. But we also saw that maybe it didn't have the same impact. So we started doing things like hybrid, where some are recording, some are live. One other challenge that I'll note here is, like you said, we were trying to use commercial platforms, and that just wasn't working for us. So NANOG did decide to essentially build our own meeting platform. And I think, as far as I've heard, it's been pretty successful. If there's any feedback, again, leave it in the surveys. But outside of that, I think the only other thing was, from a challenge point of view, was when things started opening back up. We were very wanting to get back in person, but then having to deal with whatever the local guidelines were. Even entering here, right, we have different guidelines. So trying to protect the community as well as get that back in person. And then also obviously things like run of show. How does that differ with things hybrid, people in person, so that we also gave the same experience to people that are remote. And then final comment as far as finances, yeah, it's been rough. We've also had to dip into the coffers.
Thanks.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So your previous question leads into a different discussion now. Okay, before COVID, usually NOG meetings was like in person, and somebody was streaming on YouTube, and somebody was monitoring a chat for questions from people online, and that was basically it. Then we went into COVID, and people online that were participating remotely got used to a higher level of interactivity online, because all the stuff of a NOG was online and was basically very, very interactive. But now when we go into how we call it a hybrid meeting, now you need staff in the room to take care of the NOG meeting itself, and the online people is expecting the same level of interaction like it was during the COVID times. So that means you need to double the staff. How are we going to deal with this? Do we want to go back to what was before and just stream on YouTube and monitor chat? Or do we want to invest into keeping that level of interaction further on? That's now the big question.
Conveniently, that was my next question, basically.
Thank you.
Fabulous timing. If I may, I think that
Shall I rephrase it? So, the question really is, how are we going to move forward post the COVID's virtual-only experience? And what other lessons have we learned because of that we wouldn't perhaps have learned otherwise? Anyway, Patrick.
Sure. I think what you said about NANOG, and I think that was echoed by pretty much everyone else, is like the fact that we could audience to a whole new group of people that we've never seen before and that was never engaged. That basically answers the question. We cannot go back. It has to stay this way, and it can't change. But you're absolutely right. It's double the staff, it's double the effort. It also is, depending on how you run it, double the cost, or to a certain amount, having a higher quality internet standard is more expensive. So we need to deal with that, absolutely. And we need more volunteers out the community to support that and help that. It's like
And I
spread the
think
message.
you can take that as a call from all of us wearing our NOG hats for more volunteers for our NOGs, because, I mean, it is something I think we are all struggling with, particularly getting younger, newer people from the community to come in, because with one exception, we're all getting a little grey. Dinesh?
I'll say again, it's an evolution journey. Just because we're doing hybrid in the way that we currently are doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to stay. And I think we have to be very open-minded about what the community wants. Of course, those of our generation, apart from you, Portia, we are used to actually going and physically attending conferences. But what I found is that there are quite a lot of younger people who, some of them actually don't want to go to these. They just want to stay online and they want to participate that way. I mean, I look at, for example, my daughter, and she's playing Roblox and she's got YouTube going on her phone, and at the same time she's got chat windows and she's on FaceTime with her friends, and there's all these things going on. And for her, yes, meeting her friends is great, but when she's not there, she can collaborate. And I think we have to be mindful of that type of working. And if we do want to have the newer entrants in the community and those who are going to run the internet in the future, I think we need to be cognizant of that type of thing. So I don't think that we can go back. And I agree with you, and this is the way we did things and it worked. But then we got into this bubble of this is the way it works and we don't need to change anything. And it's the same as actually IRC works, we don't need to change anything. So I think we have to constantly look at how to change, how to make things better. So I don't know the answer to your question but I do think hybrid is the right answer for the next 2 or 3 years.
So getting out of comfort area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at one point, we didn't have to change that much because we were already streaming, for example, NOG Day live on YouTube and the website. So many folks who couldn't travel or would not get allowance to travel from their employer, they could already follow the NOG Day, and they could ask questions via, again, IRC. We need to work on that, but so there was already that opportunity to interact as well with the speaker. What we did change is obviously to have remote presenters joining the conference. So that was especially a challenge for the AV crew. How do you loop them in, and how do you make sure that if a question is asked in the room that they also get that audio and video and stuff. So that definitely changed. And I think going hybrid or continuing to offer meetings in a hybrid fashion, that's definitely here to stay. And it's a good thing that by doing so, we're opening the door for another generation and people who are not able to attend in person or to come and present in person. So yeah, so that's definitely agreed the way forward.
Well, I have to say, having come out to meetings just made me realize how important human connection is in person, physical meeting, being able to see people in front of you as opposed to a screen, shaking hands, hugs, and all of that. It's very important. And that's one of the biggest things that makes these kind of meetings work, and we cannot take that away. So moving forward, how do we do it? Of course, we want to have physical meetings. We want to be able to see each other and interact with each other. But we do have to consider the fact that we can't always travel, or for whatever reasons people can't travel, whether it's a pandemic or other reasons, we do have to cater for everybody. So I think hybrid is definitely the way forward, but we can never take away the human aspect of physical contact and physical interaction.
No, I agree there with the human networking portion of that, where it has to be face-to-face, eye-to-eye, where there's something different there. But to the point of the new generation on how they choose to interact, like you said, there are many that don't want to be there live in person, but they're totally capable. They are interacting in their own methods and trying to unlock that. I think, again, hybrid is going to be the way that we're going to be running for the foreseeable future until we figure out, maybe someone in the audience can figure out how we're all virtually there and we can emulate, we're all just set-top boxes talking to each other. But one of the things is, as NANOG has built out these tools and whatnot, we're exploring how we can share these with other NOGs, the platforms, the toolings that we built, the lessons that we've learned, so other NOGs don't have to recreate the wheel.
Okay.
We should connect.
Yeah. Just want to emphasize that we have now beautiful tools for organizing a hybrid or virtual conferences. And since the COVID outbreak started, the developers make a big move forward in their development. So even some meeting organizers may decide to change the format, that you probably don't need even to have a mic in the room. All the questions can be, and all the cooperation with the local audience can be made online. So just think about this if you still want to run the hybrid meetings.
Jan, would you like to answer your question?
Yes and no, because I don't know the answer. Actually, I agree with Patrick and Dinesh that we shouldn't be going back to what was before, but at the same time, the amount of volunteers is the same or lower than before. So we need to sort this on both sides of equation. If the community wants to have the same level of participation and engagement online, then we need more volunteers. So this is the equation that we need to solve. And if we can't solve this, then we are going to what we had before. It's very simple.
Any last comments on this?
I have a contradicting follow-up that I would like everyone's input in, if I may.
Of course.
So let's go specifically into speakers and ask the question of, should we have remote speakers?
No, that's my next question.
You shouldn't have given us the stuff to read before. No, I didn't know. Sorry. Please feel free. Go ahead.
We still need you.
I don't know why I'm here. There's been some conversation today and yesterday about remote speakers. And NOGs have different policies on them. And it might be interesting to hear what the individual NOGs have to say. I mean, some have very simple policies, others have, it depends, type policies. So, Melchior, what's your policy?
Well, so yes, we offer opportunity for presenters to be there locally, remote, but we expect it to be a live presentation. Because in our opinion, if you present remote and you pre-record, it's obviously very handy for from the organizational part of view, but you miss the energy of someone presenting live. I mean, it's different. I noticed it myself as well. If you speak to a screen and your notes recorded and everything can be edited, etc., than if you're presenting live in front of a screen. So yes, we do welcome remote presenters, but they have to be live.
Yeah.
Well, we had a RIPE meeting in Berlin that was hybrid, and because of many people from the program committee couldn't make it because of different things. The rest that was there, we had to share the vast amount of sessions to chair. So at that meeting, I chaired 6 or 7 sessions, and I was observing the community quite observantly about the level of attention when there was a person on stage or when there was somebody presenting remotely. And to be really honest, when people were presenting remotely, there was lots of people reading emails. It was seen as I saw the big difference in people's attention in the audience. Of course, we welcome remote presenters, we welcome remote participation, but the reaction from the community was not that great.
And that was live presenters or recorded?
Live presenters, basically.
Because were there any recorded ones?
I don't remember if you have any recorded one. I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Well, we do welcome online presenters, but we prefer that they do it in person at the meeting. However, we do consider that circumstances might prevent them from doing so, but we prefer to have people come and join us at the conference and
And is that live remote or recorded remote?
live, not recorded.
Okay. Dinesh?
UKNOF does accept remote presentations. As Portia said, it's preferable that the speaker is in the room because it allows those people in the room to ask them questions and mingle with that speaker later on during the breaks, during the lunch. But you know, of course, there are various reasons why some speakers can't travel, and we want to make sure that we are fully inclusive in that regard. Some who can't afford to travel, some who are unable to travel for other reasons, COVID reasons, for example, but they have great content and content which is actually right now that the audience should, you know, it would be beneficial for the audience to listen to right now. So it's ongoing. I think it's going to, we're going to have more and more remote presentations, of course. Generally, it's around 50-50. And if it stays around 50-50, that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable than if it was only one speaker in the room and 10 speakers who are remote, because then you think, well, what was the point of that? Yeah, so what we do.
I mean, we've done, for UKNOF, I think we've only had one recorded talk.
Yes, we experimented with that.
And the rest have all been live. And that talk did stand out as being different from the others, I think, because of that.
Yes, so even though the remote presentation, which was recorded, pre-recorded, the speaker was available live for answering questions. It did seem there was a little bit of a difference in that. But I'd like to ask Jan, when you were observing people at the RIPE meeting, did you notice the age difference between those who were reading their emails while there was a remote presenter and the age of those who weren't reading their emails?
Well, in general, people were more attentive when the person was on stage, because it's a human behavior. If there is somebody looking at you and you open your mail, then you know you need to have a really good reason why you open your mail and not pay attention to the presenter. But if the person is on the screen, then you go like in your head, oh, he can't see me anyway, right? So I can do my mail and not pay attention.
Yeah. So on that, in that respect, I would question was the presentation compelling enough? Was it interesting enough? The thing is that even when there are speakers in the room, for example, there are some people who are nervous about speaking, or they know their content, but the delivery is fairly dry, and that comes down to, in my opinion, it comes down to needing to shepherd speakers, whether they are in the room or they're remote, and making sure that the speaker knows how to present the material in an interesting way is probably something that we need to learn how to do.
Yep.
And so whether it's remote or in the room, I don't think it would make a difference if that delivery was on point.
Well, that's why I said I got quite a wide sample with 6 or 7 sessions, and I noticed the difference. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Patrick, would you like to answer your question?
Sure. I was Jan completely. So the DNOG background, DNOG has 2 different sides how we encourage. We absolutely encourage remote presentations. We only do live, we don't do recorded. We don't allow that. For the virtual meetups, so we have a virtual meetup session where everything is remote and everyone is virtual. We absolutely encourage that. We absolutely encourage newcomers to go to that first and have their first experiences there. We talk about the actual big conference. We have a very, very highly preferable on-site live person speaker. We make exceptions if it is an exceptional speaker that we absolutely want, but we really want people to be on site. And it's like, I completely agree with what Jan said. It's like, I saw the same at RIPE. I'll be honest, I saw the same here as well. And I saw it at a couple of other conferences. The atmosphere in the room and the setup in the room is a completely different one if you have speakers on stage, if they're present, if they're talking to the people. And if we want to keep the conversations and the meetings alive as they are in person as well, we need to make that happen.
And you know what's interesting? That this session is turning into what we have at RIPE meetings. It's a NOG organizers meeting.
Yes. So here's the thing: is we all collaborate with each other anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we, I mean, when I set the thing up, it was basically 2 minutes of all my open chat windows. Are you coming to NANOG? Great, you're on a panel. Vince,
I'll say
I'm
that.
bearing in mind we only have 4 minutes.
Make it quick. Well, I'll say that we do, now that we're back in person, that we would prefer talks live in person. But to the point where some people choose not to or cannot, we allow obviously remote. And pre-recorded talks, I think, is really the key here. Is that, I mean, look at the opening debate with Vince and John. That was still compelling. It depends on who the speaker is, what the content is. And for us to have been able to get those two at the same time upstage would probably be impossible. So to be able to have that recording, I think, is key. That opens up a lot more speakers because of schedules or whatnot. So again, I mean, preference would be in-person live, remote live, and then recording, I think.
You see, I would actually say that Vince's talk was different because he was performing to somebody else. It was a recording of a live event, which was JB and Vince talking to each other, rather than the standard, which is people recording to the screen and there's no audience, whereas he had JB to interact with.
So it's interesting because
And I agree, that was a really good session, but it wasn't like the standard presenting to a screen, which is, I think, what people are talking about here, being very dead and.
So one thing, because we did run into that, and I don't know, again, if this has changed on the PC, but some of the recordings now, a PC member is there, so not they're only talking to a screen, they can see some visual feedback, at least from one person, so that there is some kind of interactiveness from the speaker.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we're looking for is interactive rather than talking to the television set. Any more questions from the floor? I know Kat has posted something in the chat. You've got 2 minutes and 23 seconds for us to answer it.
Oh, I'm so short.
She can increase the time.
No, Kat can't.
Cat currency. My question was, is there any thoughts around making a global, like Mattermost or something, since Slack costs money, for all network engineers, not just for each of your individual regions and your individual NOGs? I would like to have a pound IX replacement. I used to be in there, but you know, IRC is dying, no offense. I do agree with that sentiment. So I'd love to see a more global modern chat. That I love our community, but that's still not the same as like IRC was. So that's what I'm looking for.
I think this is a great idea. And Mr. Chairman of GNA board, should we create a Mattermost server for all NOGs globally? He's looking
Yes,
at a
please.
different direction.
Yeah. I mean, certainly NOG5 and EuroIX share a server, and I think there are other organizations like GNA offers it as, I believe, part of their things. I mean, the problem is that this is all act local and we need something that's bigger and funded. Jeff?
We have another remote question. Simon LaBelle asks, any thought of organizing a worldwide NOG while being partnered with local NOGs?
I think that's kind of like RIR policy, isn't it, really? Doing a global RIR policy. First you need a policy, then you need to get everyone to agree to it. It's people and time, really.
Yeah, no, sorry. I don't think we actually want to go there. Like, sorry, but
Okay, so with an RIR policy, a global RIR policy, you have to have the regional policy, and then everybody has to agree they want that. If they don't agree to that, it's not going to happen. And I think that's your point. It's like,
Yes, and we already have that. We have the NANOG format, we have a RIPE format in Europe, we have other forums in which we meet. At least in my point, the subject of NOGS is to facilitate the local organized, the national, or whatever you define as a local area, and then push them out to the other meetings, not to create another one.
So you're saying once we have the interstellar networking that Vint was talking about, we can form the global Earth NOG at that point?
yeah, we're going to do it as soon as the moon is on the orbit, okay? Is that far enough? Or should we hold out for Mars?
Okay.
Maybe Jupiter?
EarthNOG. So that's a good one, EarthNOG.
So 10 seconds for any last questions.
Bastian Becker, Deutsche Telekom. No question, but thank you for your work, for your effort. Go on, please. Great support.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
That was Sebastian from Deutsche Telekom. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for answering the questions. And I will hand back to Jeff, our session chair, to lead everyone else on to the next session. Thank you again.
And we're off.
Thanks, Fergus.
Thank you.
Thank you.